there's permanence. But if the president can remove these people right away, then it seems to be contradictory to the term tenure. So I leave it to the sponsor
Yes,
to
I just heard, Mr. President, that this is a military
term.
used.
Okay, but then
amongst them.
then in that case, I would put it in quotation. I would define it further because you're using military terms in a legal document, and as a lawyer, I have to be sure that I understand it and it is consistent with regular parlance, no? So, yun. Kasi kung may iba pala siyang meaning dun sa particular sector, then we have to clarify it. Yun lang naman, Mr. President. And then if I may go back to the first point, that the first amendment that His Honor raised, where I said that it's just confusing, and I feel like I respect that His Honor, the chairperson of the committee, or the sponsor of the measure, is trying to help us understand this measure and why there is a need to make these amendments. When he explained that the term fixed, no, the use of the word fixed tour of duty should be deleted because there is no such thing. The president should always have the power to remove such person. I just want to, for the record, state that, but in effect, the law that we are now trying to amend still gives the president that power to remove. It's very clear in that law that we passed. So to be clear, may klaro naman na ganun dun sa pinasa namin. Kaya lang, the use of the insertion of the term fixed then made it a little bit confusing. So now, we are doing what we try to do well, which is further clarify, sana, and not further confuse. So thank you, Mr. President. Are we now on the fourth item?
Yes,
Third or fourth?
yes, Mr.
Fourth item?
President. I thought you have a flight, Mr. President.
I do. O, paiwan ko na. Mr. President, for the record, I am doing this for the team, okay? I was asked to interpellate. I really want to leave to see. Hindi ako nag-request. I was asked to get it started. Would you like me to end now? I can.
No, it's okay, it's okay. I'll be more than happy to be interpellated, Mr. President. What time is your flight, Mr. President?
Mamaya pa naman, pero gusto ko naman makita yung mga anak ko, Mr. President, bago ko umalis. Saka gusto ko naman makapag-empake ng damit.
Well, okay, the third amendment.
Are we still on the third? Fourth na, di ba?
Fourth. Those in the grades of Major General, Rear Admiral, if you are confused with Major General, this is in the Armed Forces, yung Rear Admiral sa Philippine Navy. Okay? Upon reaching the age of 58, or the maximum tenure in grade, as defined in this act, whichever comes earlier. Number 4, those in the grades of Lieutenant General, Vice Admiral, upon reaching the age of 59, or the maximum tenure in grade as defined in this act, whichever comes earlier, or upon relief by the President. We are introducing a graduated age of retirement for our generals and flag officers to strike a balance between the promotions of our junior officers and maximizing the experience and expertise of our more senior officers. The experience and skills and expertise of these officers must be maximized. That is according to the consultations that I had with several officers of our armed forces of the Philippines. Because these officers were sent by the government to various courses locally and abroad. That was what I was discussing during our caucus. And if we retire them early, despite being very capable and still being very strong of discharging their duties and functions of their offices, that will be detrimental to our armed forces of the Philippines. Kasi if we retire them at the age of 56, tapos pinag-aral ng gobyerno, locally or abroad, for me, marami hong kukuha ng mga malalaking korporasyon, mga private entities to hire them because of their skills and expertise na pinag-aral ng ating gobyerno. So graduate namin yung retirement age. And in fact, upon research, the Philippines retirement age at 56 is the youngest in Asia, except for Cambodia. Yung retirement age nila 55. When we talk of countries like Indonesia, Japan, Singapore, South Korea, Cambodia, ang retirement age po nila 60. I don't know with China. Ang sabi ni Senator Risa, 70 ang retirement age dun sa China. So I think we are the youngest. No, the Philippines retirement age at 56 is the youngest in Asia. Eh ako nga po magsi-60 pero kaya pa po natin.
Kaya pa talaga, Mr. President.
Kayang-kaya.
I understand that on that point, Mr. President, we need not look too far naman kasi marami talaga tayong kaibigan, kakilala tayo, nasa age bracket tayo niya na nasa 50s. Talagang marami pang ibibigay. So I have no problem with that. But I feel that even that point should be explored further. If the point is we should have a higher retirable age, and that's a whole new discussion, which I will take His Honor's lead. Do we include that here? Do we discuss that later? What are the legal implications, financial implications on us? Is that something that should be taken up now or in another bill? Kasi you're raising a valid point, and I agree that they should have more to offer. I'm a very strong supporter of not retiring too early.
Well, there is a prohibition. Where's the Soljan? There is a prohibition in our Constitution, if I may read the prohibition of the Constitution. The laws on retirement of military shall not allow extension of service. That is in Article 16, Section 5. And according to the deliberations of the Constitutional Commission, the provision seeks to prohibit extension of military service beyond the set age of retirement. Congress, however, is not precluded from legislating a new law or new age of retirement or mode and manner of retirement. Just in case lang na meron mag-question about the constitutionality of this provision. And in fact, we got a query from the Office of the Solicitor General.
Thank you. I think that's very important that His Honor, the sponsor, included that here. But to be clear, by law, no, as His Honor has pointed out, by law, you can change the retirement age. What is prohibited is that this is the retirement age, and then you're extending the service, you're
Correct.
extending the service. And that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're now in the process of reviewing what is that retirement age. And this representation understands that what His Honor is doing is giving different ages, given the fact that in the existing law, it was all increased to 59. And now, in lieu of reverting to 56, there is sort of a compromise. I guess that's what it is, 57, 58. In my years of experience, I've recognized the importance of compromise. Years from now, though, people may look at this and say, ano kaya pinagkaiba nung magre-retire ng 57, ng 58, di ba? Kasi technically po, wala. What we're trying to do is to manage the number of high-level officials and taking note of the fact that in the next few years, the longer it takes for them to retire, there will be a batch or a couple of batches that will be, I don't know what's the right word, disenfranchised, that will not have the same opportunities. Is that correct? That's why His Honor is doing that, to lessen the number of affected
Yes.
younger batches
Choosing the lesser evil.
that would, yun na nga, that would be affected. So, I don't know if there's a better way to do it, but I'm just
Well, I
recognizing
think
what His Honor is
upon
trying to do.
consultations with our officers from the military, I think this is the best way, if I may say, the best way that we can avoid the rumblings and grumblings within the military.
Okay, may we get the fourth, Your Honor? We note that, thank you. The fifth.
Are you in a hurry, Mr. President?
I am, Mr. President. Kanina minamadali niyo ako, ngayon parang ayaw niyang mag-ending tayo.
Ito? Okay, foremost is the matters concerning our enlisted personnel be removed from the coverage of RA 11709. We will revert to the previous system where the promotion, separation, and maximum allowable tenure of our enlisted personnel will be governed by the issuances of the DND and the AFP. This will afford the DND and AFP flexibility in adjusting the policies concerning our enlisted personnel, depending on their developing and expanding needs. For the information of the gentlelady from Taguig, we have the AFP is composed of around 85%, tama, 85% of our enlisted personnel in the AFP. At marami hong maapektuhan dito sa ating mga enlisted personnel kung if we include them in the coverage of RA 11709.
Yes, Mr. President. Again, to put context here, I think the average person following us will not know what we are talking about. So let me put context, and I would appreciate His Honors correcting me if
Yes.
if I'm not that clear. Under the existing law, RA 11709, there is a provision that makes it automatic that within a certain number of years, if the enlisted personnel are not promoted, then they will effectively be retired. I'm not sure if I'm using the right language, but parang ganun yung naaalala kong discussion. And that is not the intention, no? The intention now of the chairperson is to revert to the old provision where there's no time pressure, unlike how it is currently written in 11709. Is that correct?
Well, okay, in a way I agree, Mr. President, but may I just explain the reason for deleting this provision in RA 11709, if I may?
Yes, of course.
The reason why we deleted this particular provision, itong forced attrition of enlisted personnel.
Yes.
Prior to RA 11709, matters concerning our enlisted personnel or EPs are governed by issuances of the armed forces and the major services and not legislated. 82 or 85% of the AFP will be affected by forced attrition, as this limits the flexibility and capability of the armed forces. If not rectified, Mr. President, I think there are 135,000 of our soldiers will be directly affected. Kailan yung soldiers natin? 100? No. All in all. We have, I just asked our resource persons here, our total strength in the armed forces is 165,000, and 85% are enlisted personnel. A total of 135,000. Am I correct?
Yes, Your Honor. So I think His Honor agreed with me that the reason that this amendment is being made is because if the existing law retains, if the provisions in the existing law is retained, then there will be a forced retirement of a big number of enlisted personnel. That's what it is.
Yes.
And I agree.
I agree.
That's why you want to have that flexibility in not having that forced retirement just because that provision is written there. We understand that, Your Honor.
And we remove that provision because the AFP has developing and evolving needs. They might need to retain a
Correct.
certain number
Correct.
of enlisted personnel given their expertise.
Yes, Your Honor. We remember. We're just trying to ensure that what we remembered in caucus is exactly the same changes in the bill that His Honor is presenting to us. Is there anything else? I think That's my last. I, Mr.
The
President, ito
provision
lang,
on-
the one on the 2 cycles.
The provision on the if I may.
Yes, of course.
continue, the provision of the PMA superintendent will still have a maximum tour of duty of 4 years. We did not,
No change.
no change. We did not
Okay.
change it.
Okay. And how about this provision, Mr. President, on, I'll just read it, that the president may lengthen the active service in grade of officers in the permanent grades, et cetera, up to 2 cycles. What does that mean? What is the reason for this bill? I mean, for this provision?
What page are you referring, Mr. President?
Page 6, section 3, page 6, line 2.
You're talking about provided that president may lengthen the
Yes.
active, okay.
What does this mean?
Well, this provision is replicated from PD 1638. This will allow the DND and the AFP flexibility to maintain the service of these officers who, through no fault of their own, were not able to attend and comply with the necessary requirements for promotion, given the limited training capacities of the armed forces, training and the educational institutions.
Without this provision, what happens?
Without this provision, they will have to retire, Mr. President,
At the age of 56 or 59 or what? No age?
or earlier.
Ah, okay. So in other words, without this provision, they don't wait out the term.
Yes.
So,
That's why this is.
so previous
I
to
think
this,
this is a
previous
also
without
very important provision that
as
we
the current
included.
law stands, this active service in grade, the active service in grade of officers in these levels, yung permanent grades of captain, major, and lieutenant colonel, without this provision, they'll be retired.
Earlier. They will,
Has that
they
been
will
the
retire
case?
earlier.
Has that been the case, or just it was a situation created by
It is,
11709?
it is a situation created by RA
Galing talaga ng
11709.
11709 na to talaga.
Oo.
Oh. May we be apprised of the private conversation?
Senator Nancy Binay.
Siguro, Mr. President, before we pass the law, what was the existing policy?
Yeah, before 11709, yes.
What's the department order?
Or ito din yun,
Kasi-
binalik lang to.
Kasi di ba parang on their own, meron silang attrition system nila eh. And what was that?
So nag-lip read ako, Mr. President, and according to my lip reading skills, this is the same provision prior to 11709. Is that correct, Mr.
Okay,
President?
similar to the enlisted personnel ang mangyayari po. RA 11709 removed this provision. Okay? It allowed the lengthening up to 2 cycles.
Okay. Okay. Sige, Mr. Observation that I will make every time I see this kind of provision in any bill. Section 7, the last page, page 9, Congressional Oversight Committee. May I remind our colleagues, in the last Congress, if I'm not mistaken, we had a rule, or it might have even been the previous Congress, so I asked my colleagues who've been here for a while to help me remember. We agreed in principle that we would not be adding more congressional oversights because dumami na yung congressional oversight, and technically the oversight is written into the powers of every committee. So I think I will actually, with His Honor's permission, toss this to the Rules Committee because I've already noticed this in many of the pending bills. And I just want clarity on this. Sa totoo lang, Your Honors, bihira lang mag-meet yan. Na pwede namang i-discuss na wala pang ganyan. So I think we should be very mindful of what bills we really want to ensure may Congressional Oversight Committee. I don't need, I mean, His Honor can respond if he has a strong
Mr.
opinion
President,
on this.
I agree with you, and I can forgo this provision. Pwede kong tanggalin itong provision na ito.
Sige. Mr. President, I end my interpellation here. I definitely have more clarity on the amendments being made, but I have to admit, on the implications, on the complete implications, I cannot say that I know because my study is only superficial. His Honor responded on point to my questions, but as to how all of this would have effects on all the on all the ranks in the different batches in the armed service, I wait for His Honor to brief us again, just because we don't want to
To commit the same mistake.
yeah, to make the same mistake of not seeing through. And there was a question posed in the caucus, and I put it on record here na if we were to revert, kasi two of the provisions His Honors mentioned, no, two of the amendments is just reverting to the old law, correct? So in that sense, there's wisdom in reverting to the old law because two of the five is just reverting to the old law.
Correct.
So if we were to say, what if we just revert to the old law, and the other given that I believe in caucus nobody had an issue with was the position of the Chief of Staff, yung 3 years maximum. So tatlo na yang we're all good. It's reverting, except the Chief of Staff is reverting with some amendments. So I don't know about the other two, no? I just want to be sure that we are careful with the repercussions and we understand it completely,
If I
Your
may
Honor.
respond, Mr. President, if we go back to the old law, we are not trying to avoid the revolving door policy. Second, there is no maximum tour of duty for AFP Chief of Staff, key officers, and there will be no continuity and of their programs and policies. And
Last, I didn't hear the last one.
there will be no maximum tour of duty for the AFP Chief of Staff and the key officers that I mentioned.
But as I just said, that's a given that is one issue which I understand from caucus everybody's willing to support naman.
Yes, thank you. And of course, the retirement age of 56. We will not be able to maximize their skills and their expertise as officers.
Okay, I just tossed to the body and of course to the chairperson the option of reverting to the old law, and then so you repeal the current law, and then what will kick in is that I don't know. Maybe we
Well,
can ask our
we can-
if you. I mean, this is just style, no? I mean, there's different ways to cook the meal.
Yes, we can, if I may,
Yeah,
Mr.
of course.
President, we can simply just repeal RA, the Republic Act 11709, and just go back to the old law.
No, and then with the amendments that His Honor wants, I'm just posing that, is that simpler than studying? Of course, His Honor highlighted 5, no? But it's still a 9-page bill. So is it simpler that if we repeal, and again, I don't know if the repeal means the other law kicks in. It may not. It may not. So
Well,
I
if
don't know
you
the
repeal, mas
implication.
mas mababawasan ang problema ko. Of course, that
Ayun.
will be easier for
Your
me.
Honor,
if you repeal.
I'm always here to offer simpler solutions because
Yes.
that is really the objective so that we can really focus. Anyway, I leave that to His Honor. I can support in any way that my services can be of help to this body and to the chairman. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, next to interpellate the measure is the distinguished gentleman from the region, Davao region,